In a small village named Shadow Creek, Virginia, life flowed peacefully in the fresh atmosphere of lush green forests. The Morgan family lived in an old house where the wood had aged over time, creating a warm and familiar beauty. Thomas Morgan, the strong father, often spent time tending to the garden and growing vegetables to ensure the family always had a supply of fresh food. Eliza, the gentle wife, was a caring mother who always worried about the children and maintained a cozy atmosphere in the home. The Morgan family had 3 children. Emily, the eldest daughter, with a sensitive soul and strong personality. Jacob, the second son, energetic and playful. And Lily, the youngest daughter, innocent and always seeking adventure. They often played outside, exploring the surrounding forests and listening to the birds singing. Every evening, the whole family gathered round the crackling fire in the fireplace, where Eliza often prepared delicious meals and told the children fairy tales. Thomas usually sat beside her, smiling at the children, proud of his family. They had lived in Shadow Creek for many years, and each passing day brought them simple happiness. However, in that peaceful space, something inexplicable began to emerge. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the area, strange noises began to echo from within the house. Emily often heard soft sounds like whispers, gentle knocking, and sometimes footsteps of unknown origin. She wasn't sure if she was dreaming, but an uneasy feeling crept into her mind. One evening, while the whole family was gathered together, Emily suddenly sensed that something was unusual. Everyone was laughing and sharing stories, but she heard a strange sound coming from the corner of the house. She turned to look, but saw nothing. Her mind was filled with questions, and anxiety surged within her. She decided not to tell anyone, but her curiosity about the mysterious sounds continually urged her to investigate. As the night stretched on, the strange phenomena seemed just to be beginning. The Morgan family continued their daily lives, but with each noise and each fleeting shadow, their sense of unease grew stronger. Thomas and Eliza tried to reassure their children, but they themselves felt anxious. What was happening in this house? What did those sounds mean? This question began to haunt them, and each family member sensed that their peaceful life was about to face something unexpected. As the days passed, the Morgan family gradually realized that their lives would never be the same. The whispers and strange sounds had disrupted the tranquility they once cherished. They did not know that a journey filled with mystery and challenges awaited them ahead. Time passed, and the strange phenomena in the Morgan house continued to increase. Every evening, as the light from the fireplace flickered, family members felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Jacob and Lily were often awakened in the middle of the night by the strange noises. The second son, Jacob, began to believe that something unusual was happening in their home. Meanwhile, Lily, with her innocent eyes, simply thought these were ghost stories she had heard from her mother. One evening, when the sky was pitch dark and the moonlight shone through the windows, Eliza decided to organize a special family night to dispel the tense atmosphere. She prepared a delicious dinner of roasted meat and fresh vegetables from the garden. Everyone gathered around the dining table, and laughter echoed through the house. It seemed that the cheerful atmosphere helped to alleviate their anxiety, at least temporarily. However, as Thomas began to tell a story about his childhood adventures, the strange sound rang out again, breaking the peace in the room. A soft knock at the back window made the whole family pause. They all looked at each other, their eyes filled with suspicion. Thomas stood up, walked to the window, and looked outside, but all he could see was the enveloping darkness. There was no one there. "It's probably just the wind," Thomas said, trying to remain calm. But deep down, he wasn't entirely sure. The pervasive unease made Thomas feel as if a cold wave was sweeping through the house. Unable to contain her curiosity, Emily decided to investigate the source of the strange sounds. "Mum, can I go take a look?" she asked. Eliza looked at her daughter, a sense of worry flooding her heart. "Be careful, sweetheart," she said in a concerned tone. Emily nodded, her heart filled with determination. She left the dining room, following the dark hallway, the light from the oil lamp casting shimmering shadows around her. She paused for a moment at the end of the hallway, where the noises often seemed to come from. The thrill made her heart race. Taking a deep breath, she continued to move forward. As she got closer, Emily suddenly heard a gentle sound coming from the living room. She quietly pushed the door open and stepped inside, feeling as though someone was watching her. In the dim light, she saw objects on the table moving on their own, but there was no one nearby. Her eyes widened, filled with fear and astonishment. "Is anyone there?" she whispered, but received only silence in response. Suddenly, a soft breeze swept through, extinguishing the oil lamp on the table. Emily panicked and hurried out of the room, her heart racing. She returned to the dining room, where the entire family was waiting. As she entered, Thomas and Eliza saw Emily's pale face. "What's wrong, dear?" Eliza asked anxiously. I saw something in the living room. The objects were moving without anyone there," Emily gasped. Thomas grabbed his daughter's shoulders, trying to reassure her. "Don't worry, we will figure this out." The sense of unease in the house was growing stronger, and every family member realized they needed to confront it. Despite the battle between curiosity and fear within them, they decided it was time to uncover the mysterious sounds that had been haunting them. From that moment on, the Morgan family's life would never be the same again. They stood before a mystery that they needed to explore, and deep down, they knew that something greater awaited them ahead. As the strange phenomena continued to occur in the house, fear enveloped the Morgan family like a heavy cloak. Every night, when darkness fell, the strange sounds echoed again, preventing the family members from sleeping peacefully. Emily, Jacob, and Lily often woke up in the middle of the night, listening to the terrifying noises that they couldn't explain. One night, as they all lay in bed, Jacob suddenly heard faint whispers coming from the hallway. The second son, who was usually not easily frightened, felt uneasy. "Emily, did you hear that?" Jacob quietly asked. Emily nodded, her eyes wide with worry. "Yes, I heard it too. Be careful. There might be someone nearby." However, Lily did not understand the seriousness of the situation. The innocent girl smiled and said, "Maybe it's a friendly ghost who wants to play with us." Lily's innocence lightened the tense atmosphere a bit, but no one in the family dared to laugh. They all knew that something was wrong. The next morning, as the sun shone and the sound of birds echoed in the air, Thomas decided he needed to talk to his wife about what had been happening. They sat at the dining table, and Thomas began, "Eliza, do you think we should look into this? The strange sounds have become too frequent, and none of us can feel at ease." Eliza looked at her husband, worry evident on her face. "Do you think we should call someone? Maybe someone experienced with things like this?" Thomas shook his head. "No, I think we need to investigate on our own first. If there's something scary, we should be prepared." After breakfast, Emily decided that she would not let fear control her life. She grabbed an oil lamp and resolved to explore the dark corners of the house they had never dared to enter. Jacob and Lily couldn't stay quiet, and eventually, all three children decided to embark on this adventure together. They began in the basement, where the dim light and damp air created a gloomy atmosphere. Taking careful steps, they heard the sound of water dripping from somewhere, echoing in the stillness. Emily led the way, the oil lamp flickering on her face. "We might find something," she encouraged. However, as they ventured deeper into the basement, the atmosphere began to shift. The surrounding noises seemed louder, and they felt as though someone was watching them from the shadows. Jacob, feeling uneasy, started to worry. "Sis, I think we should go back," he said, his voice trembling. Lily, who loved to explore, protested. "We can't give up. We have to find out." But Emily's expression revealed her unease, and she too wanted to leave this place. At that moment, they heard a loud noise coming from a dark corner of the basement. It sounded like something had fallen over. Hearts racing, all three children froze, not daring to move. Emily whispered, "Maybe we should go check it out." They slowly approached the sound, but each step felt heavier. As they got closer, they saw an old wooden crate lying on the ground, one of the crates that Thomas often used to store odds and ends. As Jacob bent down to take a look, suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through, extinguishing the oil lamp in Emily's hand. The three children stood frozen in the darkness. No one dared to speak, but each of them felt a deep-seated fear within. Emily, with her courage, called out, "Is anyone here?" A moment of silence passed, then suddenly, a soft whisper floated through the air. "Help me." A chill swept over them, and in that instant, they knew that something strange and terrifying was present in their lives. Emily, with her courage, called out, "Is anyone here?" A moment of silence passed, then suddenly, a soft whisper floated through the air. "Help me." A chill swept over them, and in that instant, they knew that something strange and terrifying was present in their lives. The next morning, the atmosphere in the Morgan household was filled with anxiety. The strange occurrences the family had experienced became the main topic during breakfast. Thomas and Eliza felt tense, seeing their children no longer joyful as before. Emily, Jacob, and Lily all shared a common fear, but no one dared to speak it aloud. "We can't continue living in fear like this," Thomas decided. He looked into his wife's eyes, determination evident in his gaze. "We need to find out what's going on. We can't let fear control our lives." Eliza nodded, though she still felt worried inside. "But how can we do that? We don't know what is lurking in this house," she asked. Thomas thought for a moment before replying, "Perhaps we should start by keeping a record of what happens. If something repeats, we'll be able to understand it better." Throughout the day, the Morgan family began to monitor the strange occurrences. Emily, with her notebook, recorded everything she saw or heard. Jacob and Lily assisted by tracking the sounds throughout the day. They were determined not to let fear hinder them, even though they still shivered at the thought of the mysteries. That night, when everyone was getting ready for bed, Emily proposed an idea. "Why don't we try sleeping in the living room? If something happens, we can respond quickly." Thomas and Eliza exchanged glances, somewhat hesitant, but in the end, they agreed. They laid a large mattress in the middle of the living room, creating a cozy space for the whole family. As night fell, everyone lay on the mattress, the oil lamp flickering dimly. They shared funny stories to dispel their fear, but anxiety lingered in their hearts. An hour passed, and the atmosphere gradually grew quiet. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the hallway. The whole family jumped up, their eyes wide with fear as they looked towards the source of the noise. "Is anyone there?" Thomas called out, but there was no response. He decided to take the oil lamp and move towards the hallway, with the entire family following closely behind. Step by step, they approached the sound. When they arrived, they saw a chair overturned at the end of the hallway. Jacob frowned, feeling a chill in the air. "It looked like someone pushed the chair," he said. Emily bent down to examine it, but found nothing unusual. "We need to find out if this happens often," she said, jotting it down in her notebook. Lily looked into the dark corner of the hallway and saw the faint outline of something. She whispered, "Emily, I see something." The whole family turned to look, but all they saw was darkness and silence. Thomas gently said, "It's probably just our shadows. There's nothing to worry about." But as they turned back to the living room, Emily suddenly thought of something. "If someone is watching us, maybe they want to communicate," she suggested. "We could try to contact them." Thomas nodded. "We'll do a simple belled. There's nothing wrong with trying, but we need to be careful." The whole family decided to use an old table and an oil lamp to create the right atmosphere. They sat around the table, each holding hands tightly. Emily spoke up, "If anyone is here, please let us know by moving the table." They waited in silence, their hearts racing. After a moment, unexpectedly, the table began to shake gently. The whole family was surprised, a mix of fear and excitement washing over them. "Do you feel that?" Jacob whispered. Then, as if by magic, the table shook more violently, and a whisper echoed, "Help me." Fear filled the air, and no one in the family could stop themselves from shuddering. "We need to stop," Eliza exclaimed, her voice trembling. Thomas nodded and quickly ended. The Bay stood up, feeling the need to escape the dense and frightening atmosphere. "Maybe we should find another way to explore this," Thomas said in a low voice. As the first light of dawn began to break, the Morgan family felt as if a heavy burden had settled upon them throughout the night. The terrifying experiences from thee were still fresh in their minds. They knew they had to find a way to address this situation before things got worse. "We can't live like this forever," Thomas said, sitting at the dining table with a pensive expression. "I've been thinking about researching the history of this house. There may be something that happened here that we don't know about." Eliza nodded in agreement, though she still felt anxious about the strange occurrences. Emily, filled with determination, said, "I'll look for information about the house and see if anyone lived here before us." Jacob and Lily were eager to join in, and the three children immediately began their work. They decided to head to the local library to learn more about the history of the area. The small library was located in the town center, with its ancient stone walls and towering bookshelves. Upon entering, Emily felt as if she had stepped into a new world. They found a small corner filled with historical documents about the area. The three children began to flip through the pages of the books, hoping to uncover a clue. After an hour of searching, they discovered an old book recounting stories about the village. One chapter described mysterious occurrences at an ancient house centuries ago, where many had reported supernatural phenomena. "This might be our house," Jacob whispered, his eyes shining with excitement. The three children decided to return home and explore the basement, where they felt something was hidden. Upon returning, the atmosphere in the house grew heavier than ever. Thomas and Eliza were also worried about what their children had discovered. "Are you sure you want to go down to the basement again?" Thomas asked. Emily and Jacob nodded, while Lily, though a bit anxious, insisted on following her siblings. "I want to know what's happening," she insisted. In the end, the whole family decided to go down to the basement together when night fell. As night enveloped the house once again, they carried oil lamps and prepared for their exploration. Emily led the way, her heart racing in her chest. They had decided to uncover the truth and not let fear take control. When they reached the basement, the dim light from the oil lamps could not dispel all the darkness. Emily opened a book they had found at the library and began to read aloud about the strange occurrences that had happened in this house in the past. They say that a spirit lived in this house, frequently appearing and causing trouble for families, but no one knows its origins. As she finished reading, a sudden cold breeze swept through, extinguishing the oil lamp in Jacob's hand. In the darkness, the entire family felt a wave of fear wash over them. "Please, no, don't turn off the light," Lily cried. "We need to get out of here right now." Jacob panicked as well. "Calm down," Thomas tried to keep his composure. "Let's find a way to relight the lamp." But before they could do anything, a loud noise echoed, as if something had fallen from above. The whole family turned to look, and they saw an old box from the shelf had fallen, spilling open on the floor. "Let's see what's inside," Emily said, her voice filled with determination. The three children approached the box, and as they leaned down to look inside, they saw strange objects: a faded old painting, an antique clock, and a few yellowed letters. Emily picked up the painting and held it up for a closer look. In that moment, they heard a faint whisper, "Return to me." The atmosphere grew cold, and an indescribable feeling filled their hearts. They realized that the phenomena they were experiencing were connected to these items. "It seems like we've uncovered a secret," Jacob said, his eyes shining. "Maybe this is what the entity wants," Emily nodded. "We need to find out about this painting. It might be related to the story we read." As they decided to take the painting and the objects home to study, a strong feeling that they had opened a door to a greater secret filled them with excitement. When the Morgan family returned home with the ancient objects they found in the basement, the atmosphere in the house seemed to grow even heavier. Emily carefully placed the painting and other items on the table in the living room. "We need to find out what these things mean," she said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Jacob cautiously flipped through each of the yellowed letters. "These letters seem to belong to another family that lived here before us. Maybe they will tell us something about the entity we're facing." Lily sat beside him, her face tense, but the excitement in the air kept her eyes glued to the strange objects. Thomas and Eliza stood by, watching their children's enthusiasm. "Maybe we should call someone who knows about these things, like a historian or a paranormal expert," Eliza suggested. "We can't handle all of this on our own." "No, Mom," Jacob protested. "We found these things, and we need to investigate them ourselves first. If we tell someone, they might not believe us or try to take them from us." Emily agreed with Jacob, and Lily, although a bit hesitant, didn't want to miss out on anything interesting. Thomas nodded, but he was still worried about the potential troubles that could arise. "All right, but be careful. We don't know what might happen." The whole family gathered around the table, with the large painting spread out in front of them. The image in the painting was faded, depicting a woman with a sorrowful expression. "This person seems like she used to live here," Emily said, pointing at the painting. "Maybe she is part of the story we're searching for." While the family members discussed the painting, Jacob accidentally discovered a strange symbol in the bottom corner. "Look, there's something written here," he said, pointing to the faint markings. "Maybe this is her name or some kind of message." As Emily and Jacob tried to decipher the symbols, a cold breeze swept through the open window. The light from the oil lamp flickered, making the atmosphere tense. "Do you see? Something is not right," Lily whispered, feeling as though someone was watching them from the dark corner of the room. "Don't worry, it's just the wind," Thomas reassured his daughter, but the anxious feeling in his heart could not fade. After spending the entire afternoon researching, they finally discovered a few intriguing details. One of the letters noted that the woman in the painting was named Margaret, and she had lived in this house in the mid-19th century. She was said to have endured much pain and tragedy, and there were many rumors that she had been forced to leave the house in fear. "It seems there are some secrets hidden in her past," Emily said, her voice filled with excitement. "Maybe the entity we're encountering is her spirit." As the night fell again, the whole Morgan family decided to learn more about Margaret. They focused on the letters and the painting, hoping to find a way to resolve the situation. But the more they researched, the more intense the strange occurrences in the house became. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from upstairs. The entire family jumped, their eyes turning toward the staircase. "Is anyone there?" Thomas called out, but there was no response. "I'll go check," he decided, but a wave of anxiety surged within him. Eliza and the children followed Thomas as he carefully climbed each step. The silence was suffocating, punctuated only by the sound of their heavy footsteps. When they reached the second floor, they found their bedroom door wide open, and a strong gust of wind blew through, causing objects in the room to tumble chaotically. As the whole family entered the bedroom, the tension escalated. The light from the oil lamp was insufficient to illuminate the space, rendering everything shadowy and mysterious. "What's happening here?" Jacob asked, looking around in confusion. "It could just be the wind," Eliza said, trying to remain calm, but her anxiety was evident in her voice. Thomas stepped forward, examining every corner of the room, while Emily and Lily stayed close together, holding hands tightly. "Look," Lily pointed at a table where another painting had fallen to the ground, shattering into numerous pieces. "That painting, it's of Margaret." Emily recognized, her heart racing at the thought of the connection between the painting and the strange occurrences. "It seems she doesn't want us to learn more about her past," Thomas said, worry filling his eyes. "We may have touched on something we can't comprehend." "We can't stop now," Emily insisted. "We've come too far to turn back. We need to know the truth." As the family stood amid the shattered pieces and the heavy atmosphere, a chilling feeling enveloped the space. Suddenly, a whisper echoed in the room, as if someone was calling their names. "Margaret." "We can't stop now," Emily insisted. "We've come too far to turn back. We need to know the truth." As the family stood amid the shattered pieces and the heavy atmosphere, a chilling feeling enveloped the space. Suddenly, a whisper echoed in the room, as if someone was calling their names. "Margaret." "Come on, we have to get out of here," Jacob shouted, but Thomas quickly pulled him back. "We can't run away. We have to face this." As they stepped into the room, the atmosphere became suffocating. In the darkness, they saw a shadowy figure standing at the end of the room, its face indistinct. "Help me," the whisper echoed, sending shivers down everyone's spine. The whole family stood frozen, afraid to move. The shadow gradually became clearer, and they realized it was the image of Margaret from the painting. "Why have you come here?" Her voice rang out, gentle yet filled with sorrow. "We want to know your story," Emily said, bravely taking a step forward. "We don't want to hurt you. We just want to help. Help me return what belongs to me," Margaret whispered, her voice growing weak and pained. Fear washed over them, but Emily's empathy and courage kept everyone from wanting to flee. They knew that Margaret needed them, and perhaps the very objects they had found would be the key to unraveling all the secrets. "Why can't you leave this place?" Jacob asked, wanting to understand more about her spirit's condition. Margaret pointed at the painting. I am trapped between memories. I need to finish what was left undone. The Morgan family realized they were standing before an opportunity to rescue their soul and learn more about the dark secrets that this house held. They decided to delve deeper into the objects they had brought back and see if they could help Margaret complete the unfinished business. Fear mingled with compassion, and they knew that their journey was just beginning. The next morning, the atmosphere in the Morgan household seemed to have shifted slightly. Although Margaret's presence still loomed large in their minds, the sense of fear had been replaced by a strong determination. The Morgan family decided that they would find a way to help Margaret reclaim what belonged to her. As the family sat down for breakfast, Emily placed Margaret's painting in the center of the table. We need to understand what caused her to be trapped here. Perhaps this painting holds some kind of message, she said. Thomas and Eliza listened, nodding in agreement. Maybe we should delve deeper into the period when Margaret lived. Starting with exploring more about the letters we found, Jacob suggested, those letters might help us better understand her life. Lily, sitting beside her brother, held his hand tightly. If we can figure out why she's trapped, maybe we can find a way to help her. After breakfast, the family decided to return to the library to search for more information about Margaret and the time period in which she lived. They quickly moved through the rows of books, looking for materials related to local history and any events that might have taken place during Margaret's life. After some time searching, they came across a thick book documenting the village's history. One chapter detailed the lives of the local families in the mid-19th century. The chapter focused on the tragedies and conflicts the residents had endured. "Look at this," Emily exclaimed as she found a passage describing a family named Collins who had lived in their house before them. It seems this family went through a lot of trouble, especially with a woman named Margaret. They delved deeper into Margaret's story, learning about a beautiful and talented woman who had been the target of envy from those around her. Margaret fell in love with a young man from the village, but their love was sabotaged by his mother. She wanted her son to marry someone else and plotted numerous schemes to drive them apart. Jacob read aloud, his voice filled with emotion. Eliza felt a pang of sadness as she listened to the tragedy. That could be why Margaret can't leave this place. Perhaps she was trapped in a situation where she couldn't save herself, she said, her voice heavy with sympathy. After learning more about Margaret's past, the family returned home with a somber mood. "We need to find out more about her relationship with that young man," Emily said with renewed determination. "Maybe it's this unfulfilled love that's keeping her spirit from finding peace." As night began to fall, the family made the decision to return to the basement once more. "There might be more clues down there," Jacob suggested. "If she left something tied to her love, we need to find it." The basement's dark and chilly atmosphere was unsettling, but their determination helped them push through the fear. They searched every corner, looking for anything that could be connected to Margaret and her lost love. While they were searching, something caught Jacob's eye. "Look at this," he called out. "There's a small box here." He carefully opened it, revealing a gold ring inside. This must be a wedding ring. It could have belonged to Margaret. Emily took the ring in her hand and immediately felt a strange energy emanating from it. Maybe this is what she left behind. She may have wanted to reunite with her love, but was never able to, Emily said softly, her voice filled with a mix of sadness and hope. "We must learn more about the man she loved," Eliza said seriously. "Perhaps he left something for her, or maybe he knew why she couldn't leave the house. But how will we find this man?" Lily asked, her face full of concern. "We could search for information about the man's family at the library," Jacob suggested. "They might still live around here, or we might uncover something through historical records." As they left the basement, a sense of anticipation filled them. The secrets of Margaret's past were slowly being unveiled, and the Morgan family felt they were on the verge of a larger discovery. They knew that uncovering the truth would not only help Margaret, but would also allow them to understand more about themselves. This journey had brought them to a place they never expected, and the mysteries of the house still loomed, waiting to be uncovered. The next morning, the Morgan family decided to return to the library to learn more about the Collins family, especially about the young man Margaret had loved. They knew that time wasn't standing still, and every question they asked led to hidden secrets from the past. When they arrived at the library, the atmosphere inside was as chilly as ever, but excitement filled their hearts. They quickly headed toward the old shelves, where books on local history and area records were kept. "We need to find books about the Collins family and events from that time period," Emily said. Jacob started searching the shelves, and after a long while, he found a thin book that recorded stories of families who had settled in the area. "This looks like a good place to start," he said, handing the book to the others. Eliza flipped through the pages, searching for any information related to Margaret and her lover. Finally, they found a brief note about a young man named Samuel Collins. Samuel was the eldest son of the Collins family, known for his kind heart and musical talent. Eliza read aloud. Margaret had loved him since childhood, but their love was hindered by Samuel's mother's interference. "Sounds familiar," Jacob nodded. "But why couldn't they be together?" Eliza continued reading. Samuel's mother arranged for him to marry another woman, causing both of them great sorrow. In the end, Margaret mysteriously disappeared, and no one knew what had happened to her. "We need to learn more about Samuel's fate," Emily said, her curiosity rising. "Maybe he stayed in the area, or perhaps he left behind some kind of clue." As they combed through the family records, they came across a name that stood out. Samuel Collins, missing since 1855. Thomas frowned. Perhaps he went searching for Margaret, but never found her. A wave of excitement surged through them. They realized this might lead to a heartbreaking truth about Margaret and Samuel's past. "We have to learn more about Samuel's disappearance," Jacob said. "Whatever happened to him might be the reason Margaret is still here." They continued searching through documents related to Samuel and, after some time, discovered a copy of a letter written by Samuel himself. In the letter, he expressed the longing and pain he felt without Margaret by his side. "I cannot live without you. You are the reason I exist," he wrote. "If only Margaret and Samuel could meet again, maybe everything would be different," Eliza sighed. "But all we have now are memories." "Maybe we should look for survivors from the Collins family," Jacob suggested. "They might know more about Samuel's story." "Great idea," Emily agreed. "We could ask the older folks in the village. They might remember what happened in the past." As the Morgan family left the library, they felt more invigorated than ever. They were determined to uncover the fate of Margaret and Samuel, and to see if there was a way to help Margaret's spirit find peace. Once back home, they began asking neighbors and community members about the Collins family. Everyone knew their names, but no one had clear information about Samuel. They realized that the village's past was shrouded in mystery, and many stories remained untold. Finally, they met an elderly woman named Mrs. Williams, who lived nearby and was one of the oldest residents in the village. She had lived there since she was young and was known for her stories about local history. "Margaret and Samuel. Oh, that's a sad tale," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I can still remember the day they were torn apart. Samuel always longed to find her. "Do you know what happened to Samuel?" Emily asked, hoping to find helpful information. "Samuel left the village to search for Margaret but never returned. Many say he ventured deep into the woods and disappeared," the old woman replied. From that day on, strange things began to happen around the Collins family home. People believed that Margaret's spirit could not find peace, and Samuel was never found. The Morgan family listened, their hearts heavy. "Maybe Margaret needs to find Samuel in order to find peace," Jacob exclaimed. "We have to do something," Lily added, her eyes sparkling. "Maybe if we can find the place where Samuel went missing, we can uncover their traces." "That could be very dangerous," Eliza said, anxiety rising within her. "But if this is the way to help them, we have to do it." With that determination, the Morgan family began preparing for their new journey. They knew that this search was not just about uncovering secrets, but also an effort to bring peace to the souls who could not find their way home. After hearing the story from Mrs. Williams, the Morgan family felt as if they were being swept into an adventure they could not turn back from. They decided to venture into the forest where Samuel had gone missing, hoping to find any signs that might lead them to the souls of Margaret and Samuel. The next morning, the family packed essential supplies, water, bread, and some tools needed for their trek into the woods. They also brought along Margaret's golden ring, hoping it could help connect them to her spirit. "We should start from where the old lady said," Jacob suggested. According to her, Samuel went deep into the forest. "We need to look for signs to determine our direction." "We have the map," Eliza said, pointing to the old map they had found in the library. "There's an area near the river. Maybe Samuel went there." They began their journey into the forest. The air was cool and quiet, only the sound of leaves rustling beneath their feet, breaking the stillness. The dense trees made them feel as if they had entered another world, where time slowed down. Everything around them became hushed, and the atmosphere was filled with anticipation. "Maybe we should split into two groups," Emily suggested. "One group can follow the riverbank, while the other explores deeper into the forest." "Great idea," Jacob agreed. "It will make searching easier." The family decided to divide into two groups. Emily and Jacob headed along the river, while Thomas, Eliza, and Lily ventured deeper into the woods. As they walked along the riverbank, Emily and Jacob began searching for any signs of Samuel. They scanned the rocks and trees, hoping to find something. Suddenly, Jacob stopped and pointed to a spot by the river. "Look, there's a ring," he said, moving closer. Emily bent down and picked up the ring. "This is a wedding ring. It could belong to Samuel." She felt a strange energy emanating from the ring, similar to that of Margaret's ring. "Maybe we're on the right track," Jacob said, excitement filling his voice. "Let's keep searching." Meanwhile, Thomas, Eliza, and Lily pushed deeper into the forest, moving through thick bushes and towering ancient trees. "We need to be cautious," Thomas warned. "This place can be very dangerous, and we have no idea what awaits us ahead." As they passed through a thicket, Eliza suddenly stopped. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. A strange sound echoed from afar, resembling a quiet cry. "Yes, I hear it," Lily replied, feeling a chill run down her spine. "That could be Margaret," Thomas said, his voice tinged with excitement. "We need to follow that sound." They traced the weeping sound, their anticipation growing. As they moved closer, they discovered a clearing amidst the trees, with a massive ancient tree standing at its center, its branches stretching out like arms. "This tree looks really peculiar," Eliza remarked. "It must have witnessed many things in the past." As they approached, a sudden gust of wind swept through, causing the branches to sway. "Should we touch it?" Lily asked. Maybe, but be careful, Thomas advised, stepping forward. When he placed his hand on the tree's bark, a chilling breeze washed over them, and suddenly, they heard a whispering voice. "Find me. Don't leave me." "That's Margaret's voice," Eliza exclaimed, and they felt their hearts race. "We need to find a way to help her," Thomas said, a sense of determination filling his heart. Maybe Samuel's ring connected to this. At that moment, Emily and Jacob were returning with the ring they found by the riverbank. When they arrived, they saw the whole family standing before the ancient tree. "We found a ring," Emily exclaimed, holding it up for everyone to see. "We just heard Margaret's voice," Eliza exclaimed, their hearts swelling with hope. "Maybe this ring can help us connect with her spirit," Jacob said, clutching the ring tightly in his hand. "Let's try calling her." The family gathered around the ancient tree, and Jacob called out, "Margaret, we're here to find you. We want to help you." The wind howled, and the branches began to sway once more. They felt a surge of energy wash over them, as if the tree was responding to their call. "Show us where you are, and we will find a way to help you," Emily continued. "Maybe this ring can help us connect with her spirit," Jacob said, clutching the ring tightly in his hand. "Let's try calling her." The family gathered around the ancient tree, and Jacob called out, "Margaret, we're here to find you. We want to help you." The wind howled, and the branches began to sway once more. They felt a surge of energy wash over them, as if the tree was responding to their call. "Show us where you are, and we will find a way to help you," Emily continued. Suddenly, a beam of blue light appeared among the branches, radiating a magical glow. Margaret's spirit slowly materialized, her warm smile and hopeful eyes shining through. "Thank you. I have been waiting for so long." Her voice echoed like the wind. The entire family stood frozen, their hearts pounding. They felt as if they were witnessing a miracle, knowing that this was their chance to help Margaret find the peace she so rightfully deserved. The blue light shimmered between the branches, and Margaret's spirit became clearer. She wore a pure white dress, her long hair flowing down, her eyes filled with sadness yet brimming with hope. The Morgan family felt their hearts race at the sight of her spirit. "Margaret," Jacob exclaimed, filled with emotion. "We found you. We want to help you." Margaret smiled, but her eyes still carried deep sorrow. "Thank you for coming here. I have waited so long to be free." Emily felt a surge of energy from the ring they had found by the river. "We have Samuel's ring. Maybe it will help you find him again." She held the ring up. Margaret looked at the ring, her eyes lighting up. "This ring, I gave it to Samuel. It may be the bridge between us." Her voice was gentle, yet filled with regret. "We want to know what happened to you and Samuel," Eliza said, stepping closer. "If we understand, maybe we can help you find him." Margaret sighed, and the air around them felt heavy with her sorrow. "I loved Samuel more than anything in the world. But his mother never accepted our love. She forced him to marry someone else. I couldn't bear the pain, and in a moment of despair, I wandered into the woods." Margaret's story filled the Morgan family with deep sadness. "So you went missing while searching for Samuel?" Thomas asked. "Yes," Margaret replied, tears shimmering in the light. "I lost my way in the forest and couldn't find my way back. I died with a broken heart. Samuel searched for me, but he couldn't find me. Since then, my spirit has been unable to move on." "We will help you find him," Lily said, clenching her fists. "Just tell us how." Margaret nodded, and the light around her became brighter. "Take this ring to the place where Samuel and I last met. It's a large tree by the stream nearby. There, Call upon Samuel's spirit. We will find each other again. We'll go right now, Jacob affirmed, feeling a strong sense of determination. Margaret smiled, and a gentle breeze swept through, as if she were thanking them. Thank you. Strong love can overcome all barriers. I believe I will be reunited with Samuel. As Margaret's light began to fade, the Morgan family felt empowered. They knew they were standing in a moment of significance, a chance not only to free Margaret's spirit, but also to reunite her love with Samuel. They quickly gathered their belongings and followed the path Margaret had indicated. The deeper they ventured into the forest, the more oppressive the air became. But their hearts were filled with resolve. Finally, they reached a clearing where a grand old tree stood tall by the stream. This must be the place, Emily said, sensing a strange energy in the air. Let's place the ring on the tree, Eliza suggested. Maybe this will create a connection. Jacob and Thomas carefully set the ring on a branch, then stood in a circle around the tree, holding hands tightly. Call Samuel's spirit, Jacob shouted. Samuel, we are here to find you. Margaret is waiting for you. Emily shouted, her voice echoing in the quiet of the deep forest. Everything around them fell silent. They held their breath, waiting, when suddenly a strong gust of wind swept through, causing the leaves to rustle. The light from the ring flickered, and a hazy image began to materialize in the air. It was Samuel, a young man with a warm smile and sincere eyes. Margaret, Samuel exclaimed, his voice filled with hope. Where are you? Samuel. Margaret appeared beside him, their hands reaching out to grasp each other. Their images intertwined, and the air around them filled with light. The Morgan family stood frozen, witnessing a miracle they never dared to dream of. Two souls, finally reunited after so many years of separation. Thank you for helping us find each other, they said together, their voices harmonizing in the air. Our love will live on forever in our hearts. The light around them shone brighter than ever, and powerful waves of energy radiated outward. The Morgan family felt their hearts lighten, as if the burdens they had carried had been lifted. Live and love, Margaret and Samuel said, just before the light faded, leaving behind a sense of warmth and peace in the air. As the light vanished, the Morgan family stood there, filled with emotion. They knew they had accomplished something significant, and a miraculous connection had occurred between two worlds. We did it, Jacob exclaimed, happy and proud. We helped their souls find peace, Emily said, feeling a swell of joy in her heart. Let's head home, Thomas suggested. Now we can live with lighter hearts. The Morgan family left the forest, filled with hope. They understood that this adventure was not just about seeking parrots, but also about a lesson in love, hope, and the power of connection between the living and those who had passed on. After leaving the forest, the Morgan family returned home with strong emotions and unforgettable memories. Their hearts were filled with happiness, but they couldn't help feeling sorrow when thinking about what Margaret and Samuel had gone through. They had not only helped two souls reunite, but also discovered the power of love, hope, and resilience in life. Once home, the family gathered around the dinner table. I feel like we just returned from an unimaginable journey, Emily said, her eyes shining brightly. It truly was a magical experience. Indeed, Eliza agreed. We saw that love can overcome all barriers. It's something many people will never understand. Jacob nodded. And now, Margaret and Samuel are reunited. They will live on in our memories. Thomas smiled, but there was also a hint of contemplation. I feel like we need to do something to remember them. Maybe we could hold a small memorial ceremony. That's a wonderful idea, Lily exclaimed. We can invite the neighbors and friends from the village to join us, so everyone knows about their story. The next morning, the Morgan family began planning the ceremony. They made invitations, prepared flowers, candles, and simple dishes for everyone to enjoy. In their hearts, the ceremony was not only an occasion to remember Margaret and Samuel, but also a way to remind everyone of the power of love and unity. The day of the ceremony arrived, and the atmosphere in the village was warmer than ever. Many people came to participate, sharing stories of love and sacrifice. The Morgan family stood in the center of the circle, lighting candles and praying for Margaret and Samuel. "May their love live on in our hearts," Jacob said, his eyes glistening with emotion. As the ceremony concluded, the whole village gathered to plant flowers next to the great tree where Margaret and Samuel had been reunited. They placed beautiful blooms on the ground as a way to send their best wishes to the two souls. "Thank you all for coming," Elisa said to everyone. "We are not only remembering them, but also learning that love always exists, no matter how many difficulties it must overcome." As the sun set, the golden-orange light reflected on the leaves, creating an enchanting scene. The Morgan family stood side by side, filled with pride for having helped two souls find peace and for conveying the message of love to everyone. As time passed, the story of Margaret and Samuel became a part of the village's legend. People often recounted their story as a testament to the power of love that transcends death. Newcomers to the village were always told about the two souls who found each other in love and hope. The Morgan family grew closer together. They often held gatherings, sharing stories and memories, maintaining connections and bonds among everyone. "I will never forget the feeling of seeing them reunited," Emily told Jacob one evening. "It was one of the most beautiful things I have ever experienced." "That's right," Jacob replied, holding her hand tightly. "The most important thing is that we helped them find each other, and that will always live in our hearts." Ultimately, what began as an adventure of searching turned into a profound lesson about love, hope, and the connection between souls. The Morgan family knew that, even though life could be full of challenges and difficulties, love would always be the light guiding them, just like the radiant light from the souls they helped reunite. And on those bright moonlit nights, when the gentle breeze rustled through the treetops, they felt the presence of Margaret and Samuel, as a reminder that eternal love would always endure, regardless of any distance.